All right, coming soon to a Nintendo Switch near you is the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, which will include Nintendo 64 games, Sega Genesis games, and the Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise DLC. Now, a lot's been said about the value proposition of the expansion pack. Basically doubles the price of the whole thing for a handful of games and DLC that you may or may not want. I think there will be very specific instances where it will make more sense. For example, my wife and I will save a few bucks if we upgrade that way versus buying 2 instances of the Animal Crossing DLC separately. But for most people, it's not a good deal. Not a good deal at all. So I don't blame anyone that's like, nah, fam, I don't want to get that service at all. But I did want to talk about some of the games that are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, the Nintendo 64 side in particular. It's a console that I have a soft spot in my heart for. It came out when I was, in my tweens and going into my teens, and it's a system that I played a lot during that time. It was a system that helped galvanize my loyalty to Nintendo during a time when Nintendo was getting its butt kicked by PlayStation, and everyone was saying like, oh, these games, Nintendo's for kids. And I thought Nintendo was making some bangers back then, and a lot of these games still hold up. So let's talk about which games made the cut and some of the ones that I'm more interested in playing than others, loosely judging whether these should have been here or not, or are these good picks, bad picks. Right off the top, Mario Kart 64, bona fide classic, of course. One of the first big games to use the 4 controller ports on the Nintendo 64, and we played the heck out of this one. I remember the day when my mom got home, like I asked her to pick it up on her way home from work, and then we just played it, and it was a game that stayed in rotation for us for years. And then, yeah, you destroyed the analog stick, wiggling left and right for the power slides. So good. Ocarina of Time, what more needs to be said? One of the all-time greatest games, depending on which review aggregate site you're looking at. It might still be heralded as the greatest game of all time. It was a revelation back then, seeing Zelda jump into the 3D space, and it's still an amazing game to this day. Star Fox 64, for better or worse, still stands as the best Nintendo, like the best Star Fox game, where they improved the graphics, added some different vehicles, and just kind of fleshed out that experience a little more. The multiplayer is not great, but it worked, and as an arcadey experience, you could beat Star Fox in like under an hour, but it was a game that we just played over and over again. Mario Tennis, I still adore this game, and it's probably still my favorite version of tennis. It has just this wonderful balance of arcadey action and realism that I think every other Nintendo tennis game has kind of lost since. I thought they almost got it better in Tennis Aces, being a little more arcadey. I think they almost had it, but not quite there. Super Mario 64, again, revelatory game for gaming as a whole, entering the 3D era. It's still a ton of fun to play, still has people playing it for speed runs and just enjoying it to this day. Classic. Dr. Mario 64. I mean, Dr. Mario it's fine. I have never played this particular version of it, but it does have 4-player. Dr. Mario, not my favorite of the puzzle games. I found that it was just very easy to have to block your board in order to clear out something right away, and then you spend so much of your time just digging stuff out. But maybe it's just because I'm a bad Dr. Mario player. But it's fine. It's fine here. Yoshi's Story. I don't like this game. I commend Nintendo for, they clearly had a vision for this. They wanted to make a platformer that would appeal to a younger audience. Since then, Yoshi games oftentimes do. I think of Yoshi's Woolly World, Yoshi's Crafted World. But what they made here just ended up being really boring. It didn't really do anything. The enemies just kind of stood there and you walked through it and then it was done. I understand why it's here, but this is quite possibly the worst Yoshi game of the bunch. Win back. I mean, this definitely felt like a, and again, this isn't a game that I've played personally. I know that there are some stands of Winback who really appreciated what it did. I'm curious to try it out. Curious, I'll say that much. And Sin and Punishment, I love this game. And you know, this is one that didn't come out initially on the Nintendo 64 in North America. It was a Japan only release, and I remember reading about it so much in, you know, what is now IGN. Back then it was N64.com. And it's kind of the closest parallel, I would say. It's a Star Fox-like game, but way more anime. And it was so good and such an exciting game to play. I'm glad it got released as part of the Wii Virtual Console, and I'm happy to see it again. I'm surprised it got a sequel later on, which I don't think I've played. But I look forward to revisiting Sin and Punishment on the Nintendo 64. And that's it. I thought this was going to be a longer segment. We only got 9 games. I hope Nintendo puts much more stuff. And I think they're in a good spot to do it because the Nintendo 64 is almost exclusively carried by first-party software, and the third-party stuff largely doesn't matter. There's a couple games here and there, but I think this part of the service could be really good if they put the resources into porting these games to it, and we'll see if they do.